What happens when the boss stands in the same lunch line as his employees and sees something no one dared to tell him? Quincy Ashford had built the company from nothing, one food service location with a borrowed fryer and a college buddy who quit after 2 weeks. Now, 8 full-service cafeteria-style bistros across the state carried his vision: fresh, fast meals with dignity for both customers and workers. But lately, something felt off. Customer reviews were fine, but staff turnover in Location 4, a downtown cafeteria inside a busy office complex, was unusually high. His district manager, Derek, brushed it off as city kids being lazy. But Quincy didn't build this place on assumptions. He wanted truth. He hadn't been to that location in person since the ribbon cutting 2 years ago. All hiring had been handled locally. No one there knew his face. When he appeared, disguised in a faded hoodie, shaved beard, glasses, and a limp added for good measure, he'd be just another guy in line. He walked in just before 11. The lunch rush hadn't started yet. He slipped into the back of the line behind a few early office workers and a young cashier on her break. The smell of roasted chicken and baked mac filled the air. "Next," the line cook shouted. Quincy kept his head low, studying the staff. One cook, an older man with a brace on his wrist, moved slower than the rest. He was trying to plate meals with one hand while the other trembled. The line behind Quincy grew. Someone groaned. Then a sharp voice cut through. "Ron, either move faster or go home. We can't babysit you." A woman in her mid-30s stormed out from behind the counter. Her name tag read Manager Tasha. She walked right up to the injured man. "I told you, don't come in here if you're going to be dragging dead weight." "You think I got time to clean up after you?" Ron looked down, silent. His hands shook harder. "I can still handle the side station," he mumbled. Tasha snorted. "You can barely hold a tong. Go clock out. You're done for the day." "But you need to stop slowing my line," she snapped. Quincy stepped forward. "Hey, is that really necessary?" Tasha turned, eyes narrowing. "You work here?" "Nope, just trying to order lunch." "Then mind your business." Ron unclipped his apron and shuffled to the back, head low. The other workers kept their heads down. The cashier behind Quincy whispered, "She's like that every day." Quincy clenched his jaw. "What's her name?" The cashier hesitated, then said quietly, "Tasha. She's the manager. Been here 6 months. We've lost 4 people since she started." Quincy ordered a small meal, barely tasting the food. He sat in a corner, watching. Tasha barked instructions, mocked a worker's accent, and rolled her eyes when a customer asked for a gluten-free option. No one pushed back. They were scared. After lunch, Quincy slipped outside and called his assistant back at HQ. "I'm staying here the rest of the week," he said. "Put me on the schedule tomorrow. New hire. Names J, make it real. Paperwork, uniform, everything." "Copy that," his assistant replied, not asking questions. She never did. That night, Quincy stayed in a cheap motel nearby. As he lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling fan, doubt crept in. Had he built something that lost its soul? He thought about Ron hobbling out the back door without a word. A man trying to work through pain shoved aside like garbage. Quincy wasn't going to let that slide. Not this time. Quincy arrived at 6:45 the next morning, wearing a company-issued polo 2 sizes too big and a name badge reading J. The air smelled of bleach and day-old fryer oil. A teenager with headphones around his neck pointed him toward the back. No introduction, no orientation. Just a nod and a muttered, "You're new, right? Tasha's not here yet, just hang out." He stood near the prep sink, watching the morning crew unpack boxes. The kitchen was quieter than he expected. Everyone moved in a rhythm that looked more like survival than teamwork. No chatter, no music, just the scrape of knives and the occasional cough. A young woman with tight curls tucked under a hairnet handed him a pair of gloves. "You food prep or line?" she asked. "Line, I think," Quincy replied. "Then you'll be with me." "I'm Alondra." She didn't smile, but her voice was steady. She showed him how to portion grilled vegetables, stack trays, and keep the station clean. Her movements were efficient, precise. He tried to match her pace. After a few minutes, she paused. "Your first day and they already threw you on hotline?" she asked. "I guess so." Figures. Before Quincy could ask what she meant, a door slammed. Heavy heels clicked across the tile. Tasha entered holding a coffee in one hand and a clipboard in the other. Her jacket was still halfway on. She didn't acknowledge anyone. "Where's the prep numbers from yesterday?" she asked, not looking up. A man at the sink answered. "I left them on your desk before I clocked out." "Well, they're not there now, are they?" He opened his mouth to respond but stopped. Tasha had already turned her back. Quincy kept his head down, stacking sandwich wraps. Tasha passed behind him, watching without speaking. He felt her eyes on his hands. "You're the new one." "Yes." "You got a food handler's card?" "Yeah, gave it to the office yesterday." She sipped her coffee and walked off. Later that morning, the rush began. A group of office workers came in early, taking up half the dining room. Line orders started piling up. One of the fryers went down, forcing everyone to double up. Quincy wiped sweat from his forehead and kept plating sides, listening as Alondra called out substitutions. Behind him, a plate crashed. Quincy turned. A tray had slipped from the hands of a girl no older than 17. Hot mashed potatoes and green beans splattered across the floor. She froze, face pale. "Sorry, my hand just..." Tasha appeared instantly. "You think this is a daycare? Clean it up, now." The girl bent down and started picking up shards of plate with her bare hands. "Use the scraper and gloves," Alondra called. Tasha spun around. "Don't yell across the line." "She's bleeding," Alondra said, pointing to the girl's hand. Tasha barely looked. "Not my problem. Clock out if you're gonna cry over a scratch." Quincy stepped away from his station and crouched beside the girl. "I'll finish this." "Go wash up." She stared at him, uncertain. "Go," he said again, gently. Tasha noticed. "You don't give orders here." "I'm not giving orders, I'm helping." "Stick to your station or find another job." The girl vanished into the back. Quincy stood slowly. "Is this normal?" he asked Alondra quietly. "We're short 3 people," she whispered. "No one applies anymore, and the ones who do, they don't last a week." By noon, the line was backed up. Orders were missing items, customers were frustrated. A man in a suit raised his voice when his salad came without dressing. Tasha didn't respond to the complaint. Instead, she walked up to the register and accused the cashier of not upselling properly. The cashier, same girl from the day before, looked exhausted. "I've been here since 6, she said. "I haven't even had a break." "Then work faster so you earn one," Tasha snapped. Quincy stepped away from the line and walked to the back cooler. He needed 30 seconds to breathe. He stood between crates of lettuce and a broken mop bucket, listening to the hum of the fan. When he returned, the cashier was gone. Alondra leaned in. "She walked out," she said. "Just left her drawer. Couldn't take it anymore." "Does this happen often?" "Twice last week." By 2, the rush slowed. Tasha disappeared into the office, slamming the door shut. No one spoke. The back kitchen was a graveyard of empty trays and stained aprons. Ron was not there. Quincy asked Alondra where he'd gone. "He's not on the schedule anymore," she said. Tasha said he was a liability. She fired him. She restructured. That's what she told HR, but yeah. The rest of the shift passed in silence. Quincy stayed late to help mop. No one asked him to. It just didn't feel right to leave. Before he left, Alondra asked softly, "You gonna come back tomorrow?" "Yeah," he said. "I think I will." As he walked out into the fading sunlight, he called his assistant. "Pull Tasha's employee file. I want every write-up, every exit interview from this location since she took over. And get me legal on standby." He hung up and stood on the sidewalk, watching the lights in the dining area flicker off one by one. Tomorrow, he'd be back on that line, but not as Jay for much longer. The next morning, Quincy arrived before sunrise. No one else was there yet except the dishwasher, an older man named Caleb, who nodded in silence while hosing out the floor mats in back. Quincy grabbed a broom without being asked and started sweeping the dry storage area. If he was going to confront what this place had become, he wanted to see every inch of it first. By the time the others filtered in, the kitchen lights were on, and Quincy was already wearing gloves. Alondra entered last, tying her apron while balancing a thermos under one arm. "You're early," she said. "Figured I'd get ahead of the prep." She squinted at him. "You're not like the others they bring in. Maybe that's a good thing." She didn't smile, but she handed him a bag of onions and walked away. Tasha arrived half an hour later, holding her phone to her ear and muttering as she walked through the kitchen without acknowledging anyone. She went straight into the office, kicking the door shut behind her. A few minutes later, Quincy was slicing tomatoes when a new face walked in. A tall man in a delivery uniform, maybe mid-30s, carrying 2 crates of produce. He set them down and looked around. "Where do you want these?" The new line cook glanced at him and pointed toward the cooler. "Back there." Delivery guy shrugged. "Got it." Quincy watched as he passed Tasha's office. She opened the door just enough to lean out and call to him. "You knew," he nodded. She looked him up and down, then said, "You're not leaving that mess by the back door again, right?" He blinked. "First time I've been here." She rolled her eyes. "Whatever, just don't disappear like the last guy. We're not babysitting delivery drivers too." She shut the door again. Quincy put down his knife and walked into dry storage to breathe. The casual contempt in her voice wasn't just about today. It was the kind of tone people only used when they thought no one could touch them. When he returned, the girl who had walked out the day before was back without a uniform. She stood near the register, looking uncertain. Quincy stepped beside her. "You okay?" "I just came for my last check." "But they said it wouldn't be ready until payroll closes next week." He nodded. "Did anyone explain why?" "No, just said to wait." Tasha's door opened again. She spotted the girl and walked over. "If you're not working, you need to leave." "I just wanted to ask about my final check, not my department. Go talk to payroll or apply somewhere that doesn't care when you quit mid-shift." The girl's face turned red. She opened her mouth, then closed it again and walked out. Quincy turned to Alondra. "She quit because of Tasha, didn't she?" Alondra didn't respond. "You don't have to answer," he said. "But I already know." The kitchen filled quickly as the breakfast crowd rolled in. The station next to Quincy was short-staffed, so he stepped in without being asked and started plating eggs and toast. He didn't miss how no one stopped him. They were too busy trying to keep up. The atmosphere was tense, like people working on ice bracing for a fall they couldn't see yet. By mid-morning, an issue popped up at the register. A man in a gray suit was arguing with the cashier over a charge. "I didn't order the combo." "It was marked as combo on the screen," the cashier said, visibly nervous. The man raised his voice. "I don't care what the screen says." "Fix it." Tasha appeared just as the man was starting to walk away. "What's the problem now? Your girl overcharged me, and I don't appreciate being spoken to like I'm trying to scam you." Tasha turned to the cashier. "Well, were you rude to him?" "I just said it was a combo." "That's all." Tasha turned back to the customer. "She's new, probably didn't mean it." Then, louder so the whole front line could hear, "But don't worry, I'll talk to her about her tone." The cashier's eyes widened. "But I didn't go take your break," Tasha snapped. "I haven't even had one yet." "Then take it now." Quincy wiped his hands and stepped out from behind the counter. "That's not how we handle complaints." Tasha turned, surprised. "Excuse me," I said, "that's not how we handle complaints. You don't give direction here." Quincy took off his hat. "Yes, I do." She stared at him. "I'm Quincy Ashford," he said, "founder, owner, and the guy who's been working here for the last 2 days." Dead silence, no one moved. Even the delivery guy, who was halfway through unpacking lettuce, froze. Tasha laughed once, sharp and hollow. "This is a joke." Quincy stepped forward. "You fired Ron because he slowed the line, knowing he had a brace on his wrist. You berated a 17-year-old in front of customers. You told a cashier to earn her break by working faster, and you've created an environment where people are afraid to speak unless they're apologizing." She crossed her arms. "You think you know how hard it is to run this place. You show up for 2 days and decide you know better than someone who's been here for months. I know what leadership looks like, and this isn't it." She opened her mouth again, but he raised a hand. "You're done here. You can't just—" "I can, and I just did." He turned to the cashier. Go take your full break, not because you earned it but because it's your right. She nodded slowly and walked toward the back. Tasha's voice cracked. You're making a mistake. This place will fall apart without me. If it was held together by fear, it was already broken. Security was called not because she caused a scene, but because she refused to leave. It took 20 minutes and 2 quiet conversations before she finally gathered her things and left without another word. When the door closed behind her, no one spoke. Then Alondra let out a breath. Thought I was going to be stuck in that mess forever. Quincy turned to her. Not anymore. Things are changing, starting now. He pulled out his phone and dialed his assistant. I want HR here by end of day. We're holding one-on-ones with every employee. I want a new interim manager from another location by tonight, someone who listens. And send someone from payroll to handle final checks in person. He hung up and turned to the crew. We're short today. I'm not going anywhere. Let's get through lunch, then we'll talk. Someone in the back clapped once, then another, and then the sound spread, quiet but real. Quincy headed to the dish pit without a word. There was still work to do. Lunch service ran late that day. Word had spread fast by 2 o'clock. Most of the staff knew exactly who Quincy was. No one said anything directly, but their glances carried a mix of curiosity and caution. A few looked relieved. Others stayed guarded, unsure what would happen next. By 3, the dining room was nearly empty. Quincy stood at the prep counter with his sleeves rolled up, helping Caleb scrub down equipment. The man worked methodically, not wasting movements or words. You ever run a line before? Caleb asked without looking up. Long time ago, before we had uniforms, before we had a second location. Caleb nodded once, as if that answered something he hadn't asked aloud. Quincy dried his hands and stepped into the back hallway where 2 people from headquarters were waiting, a senior HR manager and a field operations lead from another site. They were both already briefed. No time wasted. He led them to the office. The place was a mess, papers scattered, a broken chair propped against the wall, a whiteboard with half-erased notes from weeks ago. It confirmed what he already knew. There hadn't been real leadership here in months. He turned to the HR manager. Alondra first, then the others. One at a time. I'll sit in for the first few. 30 minutes later, Alondra walked in, still in her apron. She sat down carefully, eyes steady. I know who you are now, she said. I figured, Quincy replied. But that's not why we're here. I want to understand what's actually been happening. You stayed through a lot. Why? She leaned back, folding her arms. I've got a kid. My mom watches him while I work. This job's not glamorous, but I know food. I've managed banquets before. But when I applied here, I was told I'd have a shot at shift lead eventually. Then Tasha showed up. That conversation disappeared. Did you bring it up again? Twice. She told me she'd let me know when I was ready. Then she hired a guy from outside. He lasted 2 weeks. Quincy glanced at the HR manager, who was already scribbling notes. Did she ever explain why she passed you up? Alondra shook her head. Didn't need to. She didn't want anyone smarter than her getting close. Quincy looked her in the eye. If we gave you the chance to lead a team, train new hires, and implement your own system for the line, could you do it? I could do it in my sleep, but I'd rather do it awake. The HR manager nodded once. Quincy stood. Starting next week, you're acting shift lead. We'll support you with training and we'll back you up. You've earned it. Alondra didn't smile. Instead, she nodded once slowly, like she needed a second to believe it. I won't waste it. I know. She left the office and the next team member came in, then another. Over the next 4 hours, Quincy listened to every story, some quiet, some emotional, all specific. One cook had been asked to work through a family funeral. A cashier had been docked hours after asking about a schedule change. A dishwasher had been ignored for weeks after reporting broken equipment. Every complaint had a pattern: retaliation, silence, or dismissal. By 7, headquarters had enough documentation to close the internal report. Tasha's employment was officially terminated with cause. No severance, no appeal. Quincy stepped out of the office and walked into the now empty dining room. The room felt different, still quiet, still tired, but not heavy. The tension had lifted, replaced by something else, cautious hope. He found Alondra near the front, wiping down the sneeze guard. "Tomorrow we'll be short again," he said. "Nothing new. I'll be here at open, we'll work through it." She looked at him, this time letting the smallest smile appear. "Thought you had a whole company to run. I do. And this is part of it." He turned toward the back, but she called after him. "Why now? Why us?" He paused. "Because when I stopped showing up, I stopped hearing the truth. That ends today." The next morning, Quincy returned just before dawn. This time he wasn't in disguise. He wore the same uniform, but his presence was different, intentional, visible, accountable. He didn't take over. He filled gaps. He cleaned the prep station while Alondra directed the line. He greeted the early shift and handed out fresh gloves. He made sure every worker took their legally required break, nothing more, nothing less. By noon, the district operations lead arrived with 3 temporary staffers borrowed from a nearby location. 2 had worked under Alondra before. They followed her instructions without hesitation. The line moved smoother than it had in weeks. A few customers noticed. "New manager?" one asked. Quincy nodded. "Something like that." In the afternoon, Quincy gathered the team by the back door. Everyone had just clocked out. The room smelled of lemon cleaner and dish soap. "I won't pretend a speech fixes anything," he said, "but I want to be clear. We're rebuilding this location. That doesn't mean adding pressure, it means removing what was broken." He looked at each of them. "Your work deserves more than silence. If someone mistreats you, speak up. If someone does something right, point it out. We'll listen, we'll act." Caleb leaned against the mop sink. "What if the next manager ends up like the last one?" "They won't," Quincy said, "because you'll help us choose them." Alondra raised her eyebrows. "Seriously? We'll interview candidates together. You've seen what works and what doesn't." Someone clapped, quick and sharp. Then another joined in. This time it wasn't hesitant, it was real. Quincy didn't linger. He walked out with the rest of them into the early evening air. The sun was low, casting long shadows on the sidewalk. Back in his car, he opened his laptop and sent one email. A proposal to implement rotating field visits across all locations. Executives would spend 1 shift per quarter working the floor, no exceptions. He closed the lid. No more watching from a distance. No more trusting filters that soften the truth. The cafeteria had given him a hard lesson, and he took it seriously. 2 weeks later, Ron received a call from HR. They apologized for how his departure was handled and offered him a new role in training part-time with full benefits, adjusted for his physical limitations. He accepted. Carefully, but he accepted. And so the cafeteria didn't transform overnight. The line still got long. The fryer still broke down every now and then. But people stayed. Word got out that something had changed, not just the manager, the culture, and Quincy. He kept showing up, quietly, shirt untucked, gloves on, ready to listen before leading, again and again.